Hello everyone. In this episode, we're going to break down episode 2 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. Jumping right in, this week's title is Superhuman Law, referring to Jennifer's transition into being a lawyer for other powered individuals. The Marvel intro seems to be the same, but I do wonder where Moon Knight went. It appears he was replaced by Shang-Chi at the end of the M. But as we'll see, there may be a reason Shang-Chi is featured more prominently in this series. We pick up with the broadcast about her reveal inside the courtroom against Titania, with more art similar to the end credits. We've actually seen the news stations KPVK 15 and KZYO 12 before in Ant-Man and the Wasp. As they're reporting the incident, at the bottom you can see how Titania's lawyers have spoken up and are just blaming the entire event on low blood sugar. It's also important to keep in mind that this is our first time hearing about a super influencer, so she already has a well-established fan base behind her. This is also where she gets her name, like Bruce warned her about, which, as predicted, came from a random fan like us in the real world. They even deem her attractive, just like in the comics, as she was always a powerful woman. I'm sure we'll be seeing more fan art of her now, if you know what I mean. Am I complaining? As they take off for some drinks, the bar Jen and Nikki go to is called Legalese, referring to how lawyers and such talk to one another. This is the first time we see her publicly embrace being She-Hulk, just to be her. And she actually enjoys it. In the comics, she often stayed in this persona as her true self, so expect to see her in this form more for day-to-day tasks. Unlike Bruce, she kinda sees being able to turn into a Hulk as a plus side to her life. I found it pretty funny the way Dennis just assumed she did it all to get her name out there, and just how blind he really is to things. And then to show off how dumb he is even more, he calls a woman an it, being just clearly disrespectful because he thinks he's all that. While also at the bar, she refers to superheroes as only billionaires, narcissists, and adult orphans. But when you think about it, this actually fits into any superhero genre as part of a hero's characteristics, or motives. But she's most likely referring to Iron Man mainly in this case. Once fired for her actions, she frantically searches for a new firm to work for. And to show this, the offices behind her just continue to get worse as she becomes more and more desperate. There's also wine bottles all around her apartment to show how tasking the whole thing has been, which I'm sure she's drank these bottles in human form. In the voicemail, Bruce refers to Jen as Fuzzball, like in the first episode. It turns out, the nickname was actually improvised by Mark Ruffalo on set, due to Tatiana Maslany having such naturally curly hair. Sticking with the theme of Captain America from the first episode and the ongoing America's ass joke, Jen's lock screen is actually just Cap's backside. But I mean, who can blame her? In a brief blink and you'll miss it scene, the website Jen is looking for jobs on has numerous references. At the top, there's a tab for Find Ant-Man, which might be a fun minigame built into the website, I'm assuming. The next tab is for Norse mythology, considering that this is a normal part of the MCU at this point. The final tab says Avengers, likely about their most recent events and maybe even potential candidates now that more heroes are popping up all over. On the website, there's also a QR code like in Moon Knight and Ms. Marvel. Once scanned, it takes you to a free She-Hulk comic. Then the coolest section of references start with the ad for Iron Man 3's shoe line, followed by a very interesting set of articles. The first one reads, "Man fights with metal claws in bar brawl." I'm not sure about you, but this definitely seems like the MCU's first reference to Wolverine, who is known for doing the same thing quite often with his adamantium claws. The second article reads, "Why there is a giant statue of a man sticking out of the ocean. This seems to be the first callback to events in the Eternals film that hasn't been brought up in any other project until now. Who knew She-Hulk would bring this much world building? Then we meet some of her family members from the end credits artwork, who ultimately shame or support her. The annoying cousin Ched seems to be smarter than what he strives for, so he may come back in the future to show that another Banner family cousin is actually quite intelligent. We also get another popular fan theory brought up, this time about how Hawkeye has to retrieve his arrows so he doesn't run out, and so no one can get their hands on them. Jen's different hair compared to her She-Hulk form is also pointed out, just like for many viewers of the series. Now I can't fully remember, but I think they bring up how Bruce basically saved half the universe in Avengers Endgame as well, just further showing how unsupportive they really are right now. During the tour of her new firm, Jen walks by many of the offices. One in particular has a ton of comic books on display. Some noticeable ones are for the Hulk, Thor, Captain Marvel, and of course, Captain America. Further proving that the heroes do get their own comic book stories within the universe, potentially as one way to fuel their efforts, like the ones being sold in Captain America: The First Avenger. We also seemingly find out that no one can hear Jen when she breaks the fourth wall, but it does take time out of her world since she heard nothing Holloway said to her. What's interesting to me is that the GLK and H logo is actually the same design the She-Hulk title had before it was updated. So this was maybe because she ends up sticking with the firm for a while, or it was just to reference where she'd be at in this series. Inside the Department of Damage Control, the same organization we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home and Ms. Marvel, Emil Blonsky's cell number is A113, a popular inside joke among those who attended the California Institute of Arts and work on these projects. You've probably seen this come up a lot in Pixar movies specifically. During these scenes, we even get a Silence of the Lambs reference from Jen about being eaten. And speaking of Emil, the line he says about becoming the next Captain America could be compared to John Walker from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. John and Emil will most likely meet in the Thunderbolts film being made that features a supervillain team-up. Everything he's saying also seems to be a lie, because the Super Soldier Serum and, I'd assume off-brands, are supposed to amplify what's already inside. We've even seen the cell he's in already, back in Shang-Chi, which we'll finally have some answers for this season. As we see Bruce leaving on the Sakaar messenger craft, he ends up taking a couple of things he used to help Jen train. You can see the Mighty Duck air horn behind him, as well as what might be the binder that has all of his experiences in it. Maybe he really is going to see a son he didn't know about, like the fan theories suggest, which I'm so down for. Hopefully we get a little more context throughout the series so we're not left hanging. But the best part about these scenes is how we get a full-on reference to the cast change from Edward Norton, with Bruce saying the line about literally being a different person back then. Plus, apparently, Emil wrote a really nice haiku for him, so they're on good terms. Or so Bruce thinks. The episode ends with footage of Abomination fighting Wong from the events in Shang-Chi, either meaning the timeline connects here, or the footage was just released later. Either way, this will definitely affect Jen's chances at winning her first case. Then we get some new artwork in the end credits. We can see Jen in the courtroom while in her She-Hulk form, an Avengers mug as evidence which seemingly says Avengers, so maybe certain merch is copyrighted. Her new team with a woman named Mallory Book, who we've yet to meet. Her family using her strength to take care of household chores, and the poop map / basket given to her by Pug. This episode's post-credit scene doesn't have a huge impact on anything, but it's still funny to watch. Like the artwork, it's just Jen helping her family around with things using her strength. First she lifts the car, then hangs the TV, and ends up carrying multiple water jugs at once, which is all quite impressive. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. It was definitely short, but still entertaining and is definitely building up to some bigger and better things. It seems like Holloway knew the bartender when recruiting Jen, so he could be behind more things like the Titania interruption to save himself. I'm also interested to see more Pug, considering Josh Segarra played an amazing villain in the show Arrow. I wonder if he'll have a more sinister side to him we haven't seen yet. Maybe he's even Frogman, who knows. But either way, soon we'll understand what's really going on. And a little side note, I forgot where, but at some point, I'm pretty sure I heard the word eternity. And I know it's probably not the reasoning and it's a stretch and all that, but I just thought it was an interesting word choice to hear, especially after seeing Thor Love and Thunder. It just happened to catch my attention. But what did you think? Did you enjoy episode 2 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law? Comment your thoughts below and anything I missed, because I'd love to hear it. And that's that. See ya.